3 years of marriage ended not with a scream, but with the beep of a scanned boarding pass that flashed red. Standing in the middle of Teterboro Airport, Isabella watched the man she loved wrap his arm around another woman and board the Gulfstream intended for their anniversary. He didn't just leave her. He laughed. "You don't fit in my world anymore, Bella. Find a cab." He thought he had broken her. He thought she was stranded. He didn't know that the plane descending from the clouds, at that exact moment, wasn't coming for him. It was coming for her, and the logo on the tail would make his blood run cold. The air inside the private terminal at Teterboro Airport smelled of expensive espresso and sanitized indifference. It was a smell Isabella Bellarossi had spent 3 years trying to get used to, the scent of a world she had married into, but never quite inhabited. She adjusted the strap of her handbag, her knuckles white. She was wearing the beige cashmere coat Dominic liked, or at least the one he said made her look less like a waitress and more like a wife. Today was their 3rd anniversary. The surprise trip he had promised was supposed to be the fix, the bandage on a marriage that had been bleeding out for months. Dominic? Bella's voice was small, swallowed by the cavernous lounge. Dominic Caldwell stood near the glass doors, leading to the tarmac, his back to her. He was on his phone, the silhouette of his custom-tailored Brioni suit, cutting a sharp figure against the gray New York sky. He wasn't alone. Standing next to him, laughing at something he'd just whispered, was Tiffany, Dominic's executive assistant. She was 23, blonde, and wearing a skirt that cost more than Bella's first car. Bella walked forward, the click of her modest heels echoing. "Dom," the pilot said, "we're ready to board. Why is Tiffany here?" Dominic turned. He didn't look guilty. He looked annoyed, like a man who had been interrupted during an important business call. He slid his phone into his pocket and sighed, sharing a look with Tiffany that made Bella's stomach drop. "Change of plans, Bella," Dominic said, his voice smooth, devoid of affection. "Change of plans? It's our anniversary. We're going to Street Bart's." "I am going to Street Bart's," Dominic corrected, stepping closer to Tiffany. He rested a hand on the small of the other woman's back. The gesture was possessive, casual, and devastating. "Tiffany is coming with me. You are not." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I don't understand." "It's not complicated, Bella. Look at you." He gestured vaguely at her, his eyes scanning her anxious face, her sensible shoes, the desperate hope in her eyes. "I need a partner who elevates me, someone who understands the industry, the image. You're sweet, but you're an anchor. You weigh me down." "I'm your wife," she whispered. "Not for much longer. My lawyers drafted the papers this morning. They'll be on the kitchen counter when you get back to the city." "You're leaving me? Here?" Tiffany giggled, covering her mouth with a manicured hand. "Dom, stop being so mean. She looks like she's going to cry." "She always cries," Dominic said dismissively. He pulled a ticket from his pocket, her boarding pass, for the private charter he had booked. With a slow, deliberate motion, he tore it in half and let the pieces flutter to the polished floor. "I canceled your seat. Security will escort you out. Don't make a scene, Bella. It's embarrassing enough that I married you." He turned his back on her. The glass doors slid open, letting in the roar of jet engines and the smell of jet fuel. Bella watched, frozen, as her husband walked out onto the tarmac, guiding his mistress toward the sleek, white Cessna Citation Latitude, waiting for them. The heavy glass doors slid shut, sealing her in. "Ma'am?" A security guard, looking genuinely pitying, stepped forward. "I'm going to have to ask you to clear the lounge. Mr. Caldwell's instructions." Bella couldn't breathe. The humiliation burned her skin. She grabbed her suitcase, a battered Samsonite that looked absurdly out of place here, and walked toward the exit. But her legs felt like lead. She stopped just outside the automatic doors, standing on the curbside concrete, the cold wind whipping her hair across her face. She checked her phone. No Uber available for 20 minutes. Her bank app notification popped up. Account frozen. Dominic, he was thorough. He hadn't just left her. He had stranded her without a dime. She sat down on her suitcase, right there on the curb of the private airport, and buried her face in her hands. The tears finally came, hot and angry. She had given him everything. She had signed the prenup without reading it, because she trusted him. She had cut off her loud, chaotic Italian family, because he said they were too much. She had erased herself to be Mrs. Dominic Caldwell. And now, she was nothing. 10 minutes passed. Bella was shivering, trying to figure out if she had enough cash in her wallet for a bus ticket back to Queens. Suddenly, the ground vibrated. It wasn't the rumble of a car engine. It was deeper, a low-frequency hum that seemed to shake the bones in her chest. The wind picked up, whipping her hair violently. Bella looked up. Above the tarmac, descending through the overcast sky like a darker shadow, was a monster. It wasn't a small Cessna like Dominic's. It was a Bombardier Global 7500, the longest range, most luxurious business jet in the world. But it wasn't white. Most private jets were white. This one was matte black, absorbing the light around it. The tail fin bore a single insignia in gold, a stylized lion rampant. Even the ground crew stopped what they were doing to watch it land. It touched down with impossible grace, the thrust reversers roaring like thunder, drowning out the pathetic whine of Dominic's jet, which was still taxiing for takeoff. The Black Beast didn't taxi to the general holding area. It turned and headed straight for the VIP curb, where Bella was sitting. Bella stood up, confused, grabbing the handle of her suitcase. She needed to move. This was clearly some head of state, or a billionaire, far above Dominic's pay grade. She was in the way. She began to drag her suitcase down the sidewalk, head down, trying to disappear. Screech, a black SUV, an Escalade with tinted windows and diplomatic flags on the fender, peeled around the corner of the terminal and blocked her path. Bella gasped, backing up. "I'm leaving. I'm sorry." The doors of the SUV flew open. Two men, in dark suits, with earpieces, stepped out. They didn't look like airport security. They looked like Secret Service. "Isabella Rossi?" one of them asked. "Not Mrs. Caldwell. Rossi. Her maiden name." Yes?" Bella stammered, gripping her coat tighter. "If this is about my husband, I'm leaving." "This is not about Mr. Caldwell," the agent said. His tone was respectful, almost deferential. He tapped his earpiece. "Target acquired. Package is secure." The matte black Bombardier had come to a halt, just 50 yards away. The stairs began to unfold automatically. At the top of the stairs, a man appeared. Even from this distance, the aura of power he projected was palpable. He was tall, wearing a charcoal gray suit that made Dominic's tailoring look off the rack. He had dark hair, slightly windblown, and he descended the stairs with the urgency of a man marching into war. Bella squinted. She knew that walk, but it was impossible. The man reached the tarmac and strode toward her, the security detail parting like the Red Sea. As he got closer, Bella saw his face, sharp cheekbones, eyes the color of storm clouds, and a scar running through his left eyebrow that gave him a dangerous edge. "Alessandro," she whispered. "Alessandro Moretti, the shark of Sicily, the man who had disappeared from her life 5 years ago, the man Dominic hated more than anyone on earth, because Alessandro's shipping empire was the only thing standing between Dominic and global dominance." Alessandro stopped 3 feet in front of her. He ignored the airport staff, gaping at him. He ignored the Escalade. His eyes scanned her face, noting the tear tracks, the shivering, the sheer defeat in her posture. His jaw tightened, a muscle feathering in his cheek. "Who did this?" His voice was low, a growl that sounded more like a threat than a question. "Dominic," Bella managed to say. He left me. He canceled my ticket." Alessandro's eyes shifted to the runway behind her, where Dominic's white Cessna was just beginning its takeoff roll. Alessandro watched it for a second, his expression unreadable, calculating. "He left you," Alessandro repeated, the absurdity of the statement seeming to offend him personally. He had a diamond in his hand, and he threw it in the mud. He turned back to Bella and extended a hand. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring. "You are cold, Isa. Come." Isa. Only he called her that. A nickname from a summer in Tuscany, a lifetime ago. "I can't," Bella said, looking down at her cheap suitcase. My cards are frozen. I have nowhere to go. I can't pay you for a flight. Alessandro laughed, a short, dark sound. Pay me? Isabella, look at the tail of the plane. She looked. The gold lion, the crest of the Moretti family. I didn't land in New Jersey because I enjoy the scenery, Alessandro said, stepping closer, his voice dropping to a velvety whisper that made her knees weak. My security team flagged a distress signal on your personal accounts. I was halfway to London. I turned the bird around. You turned around? For me? I would turn the world around for you, if you let me, he said intensely. Now, get in the plane. We have a schedule to keep. Where are we going? Bella asked, dazed. Alessandro gestured to the open door of the black jet, where a flight attendant was already waiting with a glass of champagne. Dominic is going to Street Barts to play at being rich, Alessandro said, a cruel smirk touching his lips. We are going to Milan. The annual Global Merger Gala is in 2 days. Dominic will be there, begging for investors. He leaned in, his breath warm against her ear. And you, Isabella, are going to be the one who decides if he gets a penny. Bella stared at him. I don't know anything about business. He told me I was useless. Alessandro took her hand, his grip warm and firm. He lied. You are a Rossi. Your grandfather didn't just bake bread, Bella. It's time you learned exactly who your family really was. You aren't a housewife. You're an heiress to a throne you didn't know existed. He pulled her gently toward the SUV that would drive them the 50 yards to the jet. Leave the suitcase, Alessandro commanded the guard. She won't need anything in it where we are going. As Bella climbed into the warmth of the black jet, she looked out the window one last time. Dominic's plane was a tiny white speck in the sky. Goodbye, Dominic, she whispered. Alessandro sat across from her as the massive engines of the Bombardier spooled up, pressing her back into the hand-stitched leather seat. Buckle up, Isa, he said, pouring himself a scotch. The turbulence is just beginning. The Bombardier Global, 7,500, leveled off at 45,000 feet, cruising smoothly above the turbulence that lesser aircraft would be fighting. Inside, the cabin was quieter than a library. The interior was a masterclass in understated dominance cream leather seats, stitched by Hermes, burl wood paneling that shimmered under the warm LED lighting, and a stateroom in the back that rivaled a suite at the Ritz Paris. Bella sat in the main cabin, her hands trembling around the crystal flute of Dom Perignon Alessandro had placed in them. The alcohol did nothing to warm the chill in her bones. She felt like an imposter. Just an hour ago, she was a discarded wife on a curbside in New Jersey. Now, she was soaring across the Atlantic with a man who was arguably the most dangerous financier in Europe. Alessandro sat opposite her, his jacket removed, his white dress shirt unbuttoned at the collar to reveal a hint of tan skin. He was watching her, not with pity, but with a terrifying intensity. He was typing on a tablet, reviewing streams of data that scrolled too fast for Bella to read. Drink, Isa, he said without looking up. It will steady your nerves. You're going to need them. I don't need alcohol, Alessandro. I need answers. Bella set the glass down with a sharp clink on the marble side table. You said my grandfather wasn't just a baker. You said, I'm an heiress, Dominic. Dominic always said my family were peasants from Queens. He laughed at Pop's bakery. Alessandro stopped typing. He set the tablet down and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. The storm cloud eyes locked onto hers. Dominic Caldwell is a man who reads the headlines, but never the footnotes, Alessandro said, his voice dripping with disdain. He saw a bakery in Queens. He saw flour and yeast. He didn't look at who was buying the bread. Neighbors, locals, senators, CEOs, the heads of the 5 families, and me. Alessandro smiled, a ghost of a genuine expression. Your grandfather, Luca Rossi, was the banker of the shadows. During the 80s and 90s, when the banking systems in Italy and Switzerland became complicated, for certain wealthy families, Luca provided liquidity. He moved money. He held assets in trust. He was the most trusted man in the gray market, because he never stole a cent, and he never spoke a word. Bella felt the room spin. Pop? Pop who wore flower-covered aprons and watched game shows? The very same. The bakery was his joy. The ledger was his duty. Alessandro reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick, leather-bound book. It looked ancient, the spine cracked and worn. When Luca died 4 years ago, this ledger disappeared. Dominic spent a fortune trying to find it. He married you because he thought you had it, Bella gasped. He married me for a book? He married you for the access codes he thought were inside your head. He thought Luca told you where the assets were buried. When 3 years passed, and you showed no sign of knowing anything, when you remained the sweet, humble girl he met, he decided you were useless. He realized the Rossi fortune was locked away forever, so he discarded you. I didn't know, Bella whispered, tears welling up again. I loved him. I truly loved him. I know, Alessandro said softly. He stood up and moved to the seat next to her, invading her personal space in a way that made her breath hitch. He smelled of sandalwood and old money, and that is why I stayed away. 5 years ago, in Tuscany. Do you remember? I remember you leaving, she accused, her voice trembling. We spent that summer riding Vespas through the vineyards. You told me you loved me. And then, one morning, you were gone. No note, no call, just gone. I left because Luca asked me to, Alessandro admitted, his voice rough. He knew my world, the cutthroat mergers, the hostile takeovers, the enemies I have in Russia and China. He didn't want that for his granddaughter. He wanted you to have a simple, safe life. He made me swear to leave you alone. He reached out, his thumb brushing away a tear that rolled down her cheek. His skin was rough, calloused a fighter's hand in a silk suit. So I left. I watched from a distance. I saw you meet Dominic. I ran a background check on him. He seemed safe, boring, corporate. I thought he would give you the white picket fence. Alessandro's eyes darkened, the storm clouds rolling in. But I made a mistake. I didn't realize he was a shark in a goldfish disguise. And when I saw the alert today that he had emptied your joint accounts and canceled your ticket, I realized the oath to your grandfather was void. Void? Luca wanted you safe. You are no longer safe. So now, I do things my way. He picked up the leather book. This is the ledger. I've had it the whole time. Luca gave it to me before he died. He made me the executor of the Rossi Trust. He opened the book. It wasn't full of numbers. It was full of coordinates. Bank account numbers in the Cayman Islands, Singapore, Zurich, deeds to land in Monaco, stocks in companies that didn't even exist on public exchanges. Isabella, the bakery in Queens, is worth $400,000. The assets in this book, they are valued at roughly 2.4 billion euros. Bella stared at the pages, the numbers blurring. Billion? Billion. With a B. Alessandro snapped the book shut. Dominic abandoned a woman worth more than his entire company. And the best part? He's currently trying to secure a loan from the Venetian banking group to save his failing tech startup. A cruel, predatory smile spread across Alessandro's face. And guess who owns the controlling stake in the Venetian banking group? Bella looked at him, the realization dawning on her. You do. No, Alessandro corrected her, placing the heavy book in her lap. Technically, you do. Your grandfather bought 51% of the shares in 1998 under a shell corporation. I've just been managing it for you. Bella looked down at the book, then back at Alessandro. The sadness in her chest began to transmute into something else, something hotter, anger. Dominic had treated her like luggage. He had laughed at her poverty. He had left her on a curb while he flew off with a 23-year-old who couldn't spell loyalty. She gripped the ledger. He's going to the gala in Milan? Yes. To beg for money from the very bank you own. Bella took a deep breath. She picked up the champagne glass and drained it in one swallow. She set the glass down, her eyes drying, her chin lifting. Alessandro? Yes, Isa. How long until we land? 5 hours. Good, she said, opening the ledger to the first page. Teach me. I want to know everything. When I walk into that gala, I don't want to be Isabella the victim. I want to be the one who signs his foreclosure." Alessandro grinned, and for the first time, he looked like the boy she had fallen in love with in Tuscany. "Now that," he said, pouring her another glass, "is a Rossi talking." Milan was weeping rain when the bombardier touched down at Linate Airport, but Bella barely noticed. For the last 5 hours, she had undergone a crash course in high-stakes finance. Alessandro was a brutal teacher. He didn't coddle her. He forced her to read balance sheets, to understand leverage, debt-to-equity ratios, and the specific weaknesses in Dominic's company, Caldwell Tech. She learned that Dominic was desperate. His revolutionary AI software was buggy. His investors were pulling out, and he had leveraged his own shares to fund his lavish lifestyle and Tiffany's wardrobe. He was a dead man walking. He just didn't know it yet. A fleet of 3 Maseratis was waiting on the tarmac. This time, there was no hesitation. Bella walked down the stairs of the jet, the damp Italian air filling her lungs. It smelled of exhaust and possibilities. "To the hotel?" Bella asked, as a driver held the door open. "We don't do hotels in Milan," Alessandro said, sliding in beside her. "We go to the Palazzo." The Palazzo Moretti was a fortress in the heart of the city, hidden behind high stone walls covered in ivy. It was a place of Renaissance grandeur, filled with marble busts, velvet drapes, and the quiet hum of immense power. As they entered the grand foyer, a team of people was already waiting. They stood in a line, like soldiers. "Isabella, this is your war council," Alessandro announced. He pointed to a severe-looking woman with silver hair cut into a sharp bob. "This is Valentina. She has dressed royalty and ruined supermodels. She will handle your image." He pointed to a man with thick glasses and a nervous twitch. "This is Henrietta. He is the best forensic accountant in Italy. He has been tracking Dominic's spending for the last 6 hours." And finally, a younger woman with a tablet. "This is Clara. She handles PR. By tomorrow morning, the narrative changes." Valentina stepped forward, eyeing Bella up and down with critical precision. She pinched the fabric of Bella's beige coat, the one Dominic liked. "Burn it," Valentina said. "It smells of submission." "I like it," Bella said weakly, though she knew she was lying. "It is the armor of a woman who waits to be told what to do," Valentina said, her accent thick and unforgiving. "Tonight, you do not wait. Come, we have work to do." For the next 4 hours, Bella was poked, prodded, scrubbed, and polished. Her hair, which she usually wore in a messy bun because Dominic said it looked homey, was blown out into sleek, dark waves that cascaded down her back like liquid silk. Her makeup was applied to highlight the sharp angles of her face she usually tried to soften. But the dress was the weapon. It was a custom Versace, archival, pulled from a vault, black velvet, strapless, with a slit that ran dangerously high up her thigh. It fit her like a second skin. Around her neck, Alessandro fastened a necklace, diamonds, and emeralds that felt heavy and cold. "The Moretti emeralds," he said, fastening the clasp at the nape of her neck. His fingers lingered on her skin. "My mother wore these. They are said to bring bad luck to men who lie." Bella looked in the floor-length mirror. She didn't recognize herself. The woman staring back wasn't Bella the housewife. She was Isabella Rossi, the billionaire heiress. She looked tall, dangerous, and incredibly expensive. "You look." Alessandro's voice trailed off. He stood behind her in the mirror, wearing a tuxedo that made him look like the next James Bond. "You look like the end of his world." "I feel like I'm playing dress-up," Bella admitted, her hands shaking slightly. "You are not playing," Alessandro said, turning her around to face him. He took her hands. "Dominic is at the Principe di Savoia hotel right now. Our intel says he is screaming at his staff because his credit card was declined at the hotel bar." Bella's eyes widened. "You did that?" "I might have made a phone call to the credit bureau. A small glitch. It will be resolved in an hour, but for now, he is sweating. He is panicked. He is entering the gala tonight desperate. And when a man is desperate, he makes mistakes." Just then, Clara, the PR girl, walked in. Mr. Moretti, Miss Rossi, it's time. But there is a development. What is it? Alessandro asked sharply. Dominic has just given an exclusive quote to Page 6 in New York. He announced the divorce. Bella felt a cold knot in her stomach. What did he say? Clara hesitated, then read from her tablet. He claims he is leaving you because of your infidelity and substance abuse issues. He says he tried to save you, but you were dragging him down. The room went silent. The lie was so bold, so disgusting, that Bella couldn't even speak. He was painting her as the villain to cover his own tracks. He was destroying her reputation to make sure no one would believe her if she spoke out. He wants a war? Alessandro said, his voice terrifyingly calm. Okay. He turned to Bella. He thinks you are in New Jersey, crying in a Motel 6. He thinks he controls the narrative. He has no idea you are 10 minutes away from him. Alessandro offered his arm. Are you ready to go introduce your husband to his new boss? Bella looked at the emeralds around her neck. She thought of Dominic's laugh as he tore her ticket. She thought of the lies in the press. The sadness evaporated. The fear vanished. She took Alessandro's arm, her grip firm. Let's go, she said. The Global Merger Gala was held at the Castello Sforzesco, a literal castle in the middle of Milan. The courtyard was filled with the glitterati of Europe, Russian oligarchs, French fashion magnates, American tech bros. Dominic Caldwell was holding court near the champagne fountain. He looked flustered, sweating slightly despite the chill. Tiffany was hanging off his arm, looking bored and typing on her phone. She was wearing a pink dress that was too bright, too short, and looked cheap amidst the sea of haute couture. It's just a banking error, Dominic was saying loudly to a skeptical-looking German investor. My liquidity is fine. We're closing a major round of funding tonight. I heard rumors of a lawsuit, the German said, eyeing him warily. Baseless. Dominic waved a hand. My ex-wife. She's unstable. Very sad. I'm trying to keep it quiet to protect her. Really. Protect who, Dominic? The voice rang out clear as a bell, cutting through the chatter. Dominic froze. He knew that voice, but it sounded different, stronger. He turned around. The crowd parted. Walking down the stone steps into the courtyard was Alessandro Moretti, the Shark of Sicily, and on his arm was a woman who looked like a movie star. It took Dominic a full 5 seconds to realize who it was. Bella? He choked out. She didn't stop. She glided toward him, the black velvet dress swallowing the light, the emeralds blazing at her throat. She stopped 3 feet away, towering over him in her heels. Hello, Dom, she said, a small, cold smile playing on her lips. I heard you were having trouble with your credit card. I hope you didn't have to walk here. Tiffany looked up, her mouth falling open. Wait, is that the waitress? She is not a waitress, Alessandro said, stepping forward, his presence making Dominic shrink physically. And you should be careful how you speak to the majority shareholder of the bank holding your boyfriend's debt. Dominic laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. What? What is this joke? Alessandro, why are you with my wife? Ex-wife, Bella corrected him, or soon-to-be. And it's no joke, Dominic. You're here to pitch to the Venetian banking group, aren't you? Yes, and I have a meeting with the chairman in 10 minutes, Dominic blustered, adjusting his tie. Well, Bella said, checking her diamond-encrusted watch. You're early, because I'm the chairman. Or chairwoman, I suppose. You? Dominic sneered. You can't even balance a checkbook. You're insane. You're following me. Bella signaled to a waiter, who handed her a microphone that was meant for the speeches later. She didn't turn it on, but she held it like a scepter. She looked at the German investor, then at the crowd that was gathering. Gentlemen, Bella said, her voice projecting effortlessly. I believe Mr. Caldwell is looking for investors for Caldwell Tech. Before you write any checks, you might want to ask him why he is currently under investigation for embezzling funds from his wife's trust, a trust he claimed didn't exist. The crowd gasped. Whispers erupted instantly. Dominic's face went purple. You shut up. You shut up right now. Security. Security works for me tonight, Dominic, Alessandro said, stepping between Dominic and Bella. "This is a private event, and your name isn't on the list." "I was invited," Dominic screamed. "By the old board," Bella said calmly. "I fired them this morning." She took a step closer to him, lowering her voice so only he and Tiffany could hear. "You left me at Teterboro with nothing, Dom. You tore my ticket. So now, I'm tearing yours." She snapped her fingers. Two massive security guards materialized from the shadows. "Escort Mr. Caldwell and his guest out," Bella commanded, "and make sure they wait on the curb. No taxis are allowed inside the castle walls." "You can't do this," Dominic screamed, as the guards grabbed his arms. Tiffany started shrieking as her heel broke on the cobblestones. "Bella, I'm your husband. I made you." "You didn't make me," Bella said, turning her back on him as he was dragged away, his expensive shoes scraping against the ancient stones. "You just woke me up." She turned back to Alessandro, her heart hammering in her chest like a war drum. The adrenaline was intoxicating. Alessandro offered her a fresh glass of champagne. His eyes were shining with pride. "Round one, to Mrs. Rossi," he murmured. "It's Miss Rossi," she corrected him, taking the glass. "And I'm just getting started." But as Dominic was dragged out, Bella saw a man in the shadows of the archway, watching them. He wasn't looking at the scene with amusement like the others. He was on a phone, staring directly at Alessandro with a look of cold calculation. It was Victor Sterling, Alessandro's greatest rival, and a man known for playing much dirtier games than Dominic ever could. Bella felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. Dominic was a pawn, but the king had just entered the board. The adrenaline from the gala didn't fade. It crashed. 2 hours after Dominic was dragged, kicking and screaming from the Castello Sforzesco, Isabella sat on the terrace of the Palazzo Moretti, wrapped in a silk robe that cost more than her entire wardrobe back in Queens. The Milanese night was cool, the city lights twinkling below like scattered diamonds. Alessandro was pacing. He had shed his tuxedo jacket, his tie undone, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. He wasn't celebrating, he was calculating. "Victor Sterling," Alessandro muttered, looking at the skyline. "I should have known he would be there. He's been trying to acquire the Venetian banking group for a decade. He sees blood in the water." "But we won, didn't we?" Bella asked, shivering slightly. "Dominic is humiliated. The investors saw me. They know I hold the reins." "You humiliated a narcissist, Isa," Alessandro said, stopping to look at her. "A narcissist doesn't retreat when he's wounded. He finds a bigger weapon, and Victor Sterling is a nuclear bomb." As if on cue, Alessandro's phone buzzed. It was a secure line, he answered, his face hardening into granite as he listened. "When?" he barked. "Freeze it. Now." He hung up and threw the phone onto the velvet sofa. "What is it?" Bella stood up, the fear returning. "Sterling didn't just watch. He made a move. While we were at the party, his lawyers filed an emergency injunction in the International Court of Arbitration in London. He's claiming that the transfer of the Rossi Trust to you is fraudulent. But it's not. It's my inheritance. He claims your grandfather was mentally incapacitated when he signed the final codicil. He claims I manipulated the documents. And the worst part? He has a witness who is swearing an affidavit to support the claim. Bella felt sick. Who? Who would lie about Pop? Alessandro looked at her, his eyes full of apology. Dominic? Bella sank back onto the chaise lounge. Of course, Dominic had spent 3 years digging for the money. He knew just enough about the timeline of Luca's death to fabricate a story. He was trading his testimony for a bailout from Sterling. So, what does this mean? She whispered. It means your assets are frozen again. The bank accounts, the properties, the shares in the Venetian group. Until the hearing in 48 hours, you are technically penniless again. And if we lose, I go to prison for fraud, and Dominic gets control of the trust as your legal guardian, citing your incompetence. The silence on the terrace was deafening. He wants to declare me incompetent? Bella's voice wasn't scared anymore. It was cold. It's a classic move, Alessandro said, pouring another drink. He paints you as the hysterical, abandoned wife. He says you're having a breakdown. He takes conservatorship over you. Bella stood up and walked to the edge of the balcony. She looked down at the dark garden below. She thought about the 3 years of insults, the way he made her feel small, the way he looked at Tiffany. Alessandro, she said, not turning around. Yes? Do we still have the jet? The bombardier is mine, not the trust's. It's fueled and ready. And do you still have contacts in the gray market that my grandfather used? Alessandro put his glass down slowly. I do. But those are dangerous waters, Bella. Sterling operates in the daylight of the courts. If we go into the shadows, Dominic thinks I'm a victim, she said, turning to face him. The moonlight hit the determination in her eyes. He thinks I'm the girl who cries at airports. I want to show him who I really am. And who is that? I'm the granddaughter of the banker of the shadows. Sterling wants to play dirty? Let's play dirty. Alessandro stared at her for a long moment. Then, a slow, dangerous grin spread across his face. Get dressed, Isa. We're going to Zurich. The flight to Zurich was short and tense. They landed at a private airfield at 3 a.m. A discreet Mercedes took them not to a bank, but to a nondescript building in the industrial district. Inside, the air smelled of ozone and stale coffee. Rows of servers hummed in the darkness. This, Alessandro said, gesturing to the room, is the archive. Your grandfather didn't just keep a paper ledger. He kept insurance. He introduced her to a young man named Cale, a hacker with tattoos up his neck and a warrant out in 3 countries. Cale didn't look up from his 3 monitors. We need the Sterling files, Alessandro said. Cale's fingers flew across the keyboard. Victor Sterling? That's expensive, boss. Put it on my personal tab, Alessandro said. And I need everything. The offshore accounts, the bribes to the zoning commissioners in London, the hush money to his former secretaries. Bella watched the screens. You have all this? Your grandfather believed that every billionaire has a skeleton in the closet, Alessandro explained. He made it his business to know the bone structure of every player in the game, just in case. Got it, Cale said. But there's a problem. The files are encrypted with a biometric key, a fingerprint, Alessandro cursed. Luca's fingerprint. We can't access it. No, Cale said, spinning his chair around. Not Luca's. The system was updated 4 years ago. The key was transferred. Bella stepped forward. To whom? Cale looked at her. To the air. He slid a small glass scanner across the desk toward her. Bella looked at Alessandro. He nodded. It seems Luca knew you would be the one to finish this. Bella placed her thumb on the scanner. A beam of green light swept across her skin. Access granted. The screens flooded with data. Emails, wire transfers, photos. It was a treasure trove of corruption. Victor Sterling wasn't just a businessman. He was a criminal. And right there, in the middle of the file dump, was a series of emails from 2 days ago. To V. Sterling. From D. Caldwell. Subject. The Rossi problem. I can deliver her. Just promise me the liquidity for my company. I'll testify she's insane. We can lock her up in a facility in Switzerland. I just want the money. Bella read the words. Lock her up. Dominic wasn't just leaving her. He was planning to imprison her, to steal her inheritance. We have him, Alessandro said, his voice low. We leak this to the press, and Sterling is finished. Dominic goes down for conspiracy. No, Bella said, her eyes glued to the screen. Not yet. Why not? Because if we leak it, they'll deny it. They'll say it's faked. We need them to admit it. In public. How? Bella pointed to a calendar entry on Sterling's hacked schedule. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Press conference at the Mandarin Oriental, Milan, announcing the acquisition of the Rossi Trust assets. They're doing a victory lap, Bella said. They're going to announce they've won before the court even decides. She turned to Alessandro. Do you still have that contact at the Italian State Police, the Guardia di Finanza? The colonel owes me a favor, Alessandro nodded. Good, Bella said, pulling her coat tighter. Tell him to bring handcuffs. Lots of them. The Mandarin Oriental in Milan was buzzing. Every major financial news outlet was there. CNBC, Bloomberg, the Financial Times. Victor Sterling knew how to throw a press conference. He stood at the podium, looking every inch the titan of industry. Silver fox hair, bespoke suit, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Dominic stood next to him, looking less confident. He was pale, fidgeting with his tie. He looked like a man who had sold his soul and was realizing the check might bounce. Ladies and gentlemen, Sterling boomed into the microphone. Thank you for coming. Today marks a historic moment. My firm, Sterling Global, has stepped in to stabilize the assets of the Rossi Trust. It has come to our attention that the current mismanagement, in the back of the room, behind the wall of cameras, Bella stood next to Alessandro. She was wearing a white suit today, sharp, clean, angelic, the color of truth. Ready? Alessandro whispered, squeezing her hand. Ready, she said. Mismanagement by an unqualified individual, Sterling continued, has put thousands of jobs at risk. Mr. Caldwell here, acting in the best interest of his ailing wife, has agreed to transfer stewardship. Ailing? Bella's voice wasn't amplified, but it cut through the room like a knife. She stepped out from behind the curtain. The cameras swung around instantly. The flashbulbs erupted like a strobe light storm. Isabella? Dominic gasped, stepping back from the podium. What are you doing here? I'm here to clarify my medical condition, Dominic, she said, walking up the center aisle. Security guards started to move toward her, but Alessandro stepped out behind her, flanked by 4 men who looked like they ate steel for breakfast. The security guards hesitated. Bella walked up the stairs to the stage. She stood next to Sterling, who looked as if he'd swallowed a lemon. You look well, Mrs. Caldwell, Sterling said through gritted teeth. It's Miss Rossi, she corrected. She turned to the microphones. Mr. Sterling claims I am incompetent. Mr. Caldwell claims I am insane. They have filed documents to take control of my grandfather's money. This is not the place for a domestic dispute, Sterling hissed, trying to cover the mic. It's not a domestic dispute, Bella said, pulling a flash drive from her pocket. It's a federal crime. She plugged the drive into the laptop, connected to the projector behind them. Dominic, she said, her voice soft. Do you remember the email you sent 2 days ago? The one where you asked how much it would cost to have me committed? Dominic's face went white. That's a lie. The screen behind them flickered, and there it was, the email, blown up to 10 feet tall. Subject, the Rossi problem. I can deliver her. We can lock her up. The room erupted. Journalists were shouting questions. Sterling lunged for the laptop, but Alessandro caught his wrist in a grip of iron. Don't touch it, Victor, Alessandro warned. It's already been sent to the authorities. This is hacked, Sterling screamed, losing his composure. This is inadmissible. You'll go to jail for this. Maybe, Bella said calmly. But I think the Guardia di Finanza is more interested in the bribes you paid to the zoning commissioner in London, or the money laundering you did for the cartel in '08. The screen changed. Bank statements, wire transfers, signatures. Sterling froze. The color drained from his face. He looked at Dominic. You said she was stupid. You said she knew nothing. I thought, Dominic stammered. And you, Dominic, Bella said, turning to her husband. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed your investors. You falsified your Q3 earnings report to get the loan from Sterling. That's fraud. The back doors of the ballroom burst open. Nobody move. 20 officers in the uniform of the Guardia di Finanza poured into the room, led by a colonel who looked very unhappy to have his morning interrupted. Victor Sterling, Dominic Caldwell, the colonel announced. You are under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. The chaos was absolute. Sterling tried to run out a side door, but was tackled by 2 officers. Dominic just stood there, paralyzed. As the officers cuffed Dominic, he looked at Bella. He was crying, real tears this time. Bella, please, he sobbed. I was desperate. I did it for us. I wanted to be successful for you. Bella walked up to him. She looked at the man she had wasted 3 years on. You didn't do it for me, Dom, she said quietly. You did it because you're small, and you hated that I was the one who made you feel big. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. It was the divorce papers he had left for her. "You wanted these signed," she said. She took a pen from the podium, signed the document on his back while the police held him, and shoved the papers into his cuffed hands. "You're free, Dom. Good luck in street Barts. I hear the prisons there are lovely this time of year." As they dragged him away, a woman in the front row stood up. It was Tiffany. She was holding her phone, recording the whole thing. She looked at Bella, then at Dominic, being hauled away. "Hey!" Tiffany shouted at the police. "Wait! I have texts! He made me do it! I'm a victim too!" Bella couldn't help it. She laughed. It was a clear, ringing sound of pure liberation. Alessandro wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "Ready to go, chairwoman?" "One more thing," Bella said. She walked to the microphone one last time. "To the investors of Caldwell Tech," she announced to the cameras. "As the new owner of the debt, I am dissolving the company. The assets will be sold, and the employees will be given severance packages from my personal trust. The era of fake billionaires is over." She dropped the mic. Literally. A week later, the dust had settled. Victor Sterling was out on bail, but his reputation was incinerated. His board had fired him, and he was facing 20 years in prison. Dominic was still in a holding cell, unable to make bail because Bella had frozen all his assets. Tiffany had sold her story to a tabloid for $10,000 and was currently trying to start a reality show. Bella sat in the office of the Venetian banking group. It was a corner office overlooking the Duomo. She was wearing a navy power suit, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. The desk was covered in paperwork, but for the first time in her life, she understood every page. Alessandro knocked on the door frame. "Miss Rossi, you have a flight to catch." "I do?" Bella looked up, smiling. "I thought I was grounded until the audit is complete." "The audit is done. You're clean. You're officially the wealthiest woman in Milan." He walked in and sat on the edge of her desk. "But that's not why you have a flight." "Why then?" "Because 3 years ago, you missed an anniversary trip." Bella paused. "I don't want to go to street Barts." "Neither do I. It's too crowded." Alessandro pulled 2 tickets from his pocket. They weren't electronic. They were old-fashioned, printed on thick cardstock with gold leaf. "Where are we going?" "Tuscany," Alessandro said softly. "The villa where we met. The vineyard needs attention, and I have a Vespa that's been gathering dust for 5 years." Bella felt a lump in her throat. "You kept the Vespa?" "I kept everything, Isa. Waiting for you to come back." Bella stood up. She walked around the desk and stood in front of him. The man who had saved her. The man who had empowered her. "I'm not the same girl, Alessandro," she warned him. "I'm not the simple baker's granddaughter anymore. I'm complicated. I have a bank to run. I have enemies. I don't want the simple girl," Alessandro said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I want the chairwoman. I want the woman who took down Victor Sterling with a flash drive and a smile." He leaned in, his forehead resting against hers. "I love you, Isabella. I loved you when you were poor, and I love you now that you're rich. Just don't leave me at the airport. Okay?" Bella laughed, kissing him. "I'd never leave you. Unless you buy a white Cessna, then we're done. Deal." An hour later, they were back at Line 8 Airport. The black Bombardier Global 7500 was waiting, but engines humming. But this time, Bella wasn't climbing the stairs in tears. She was walking hand in hand with her equal. As they reached the top of the stairs, Bella paused and looked back at the tarmac. She saw a ghost of her former self standing there, scared, abandoned, clutching a cheap suitcase. She mentally waved goodbye to that girl. "Ready?" Alessandro asked, extending his hand. Bella took it. "Wheels up," she said. The door closed, sealing them into a world where they made the rules. The jet taxied to the runway, roared down the tarmac, and lifted effortlessly into the sky, leaving the ground and Dominic far, far behind. And that is how Isabella Rossi went from a discarded wife on a curb to the queen of the banking world. Dominic thought he could throw her away like trash, but he forgot one crucial rule of business: never underestimate the quiet ones. He chased a fake image of wealth and lost the real treasure he had right in front of him. In the end, Bella didn't just get the money. She got her dignity, her power, and a love that was strong enough to weather the storm. If you enjoyed this story of revenge, romance, and justice, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. And tell me in the comments, if you were Bella, would you have forgiven Dominic, or was leaving him in jail the perfect ending? Let's talk about it down below. Thanks for watching.